Every day, thousands of drivers pour onto Interstate 10 between Phoenix and Tucson, and traffic grinds to a crawl. At rush hour, speeds drop to 10 miles per hour. Arizona is spending nearly $1 billion to widen this highway, but the work won't finish until late 2029. And when those new lanes finally open, the traffic will only get worse. What's happening here isn't a traffic problem that wider roads can fix. Phoenix and Tucson are merging into one of America's first desert megacities, expected to house 10 million people by 2050. The strange part is that no one is actually coordinating any of this. Phoenix and Tucson are separate cities in separate counties with separate plans, and the entire region sits in a desert that gets less than 8 inches of rain per year, supplied by a river system that's been overused for decades. So how did Arizona end up building a megacity with no one driving the process? And is there any way to coordinate growth before 10 million people inherit a sprawling, traffic-choked desert? To understand where Phoenix and Tucson are connecting, look at Pinal County, the stretch of land between them. Over the past decade, this county transformed from quiet agricultural territory into one of the fastest growing suburban zones in America. Casa Grande built 5,620 homes over the last 10 years. But what's coming next operates on a completely different scale. 54 new residential developments are set to break ground over the next decade, adding 45,050 homes across nearly 15,000 acres. That's enough housing for over 100,000 new residents landing in what used to be empty desert. Families priced out of Phoenix and Tucson are accepting longer commutes in exchange for houses they can actually afford. But there's an imbalance built into this growth. In 2010, Pinal County had only 19 jobs per 100 residents. Even with all the new development planned, projections for 2040 show that number climbing to just 28 jobs per 100 residents. Roughly 3 out of every 4 people moving into these neighborhoods will need to commute to Phoenix or Tucson for work. Most of those commutes funnel onto Interstate 10. At major interchanges, rush hour traffic creates delays that stretch for miles. The crash rate on certain stretches is double what's seen on other regional freeways. Pinal County doesn't control whether Phoenix and Tucson merge economically. What it does control is whether it captures tax revenue from the housing boom or watches development happen elsewhere. Every city and county along the Interstate 10 corridor faces the same calculation: approve development and collect property taxes, or lose growth to somewhere else. The result is rapid residential construction without anyone evaluating whether the highway system can handle the load. The housing keeps coming. Tens of thousands of new commuters hit Interstate 10 every year, and something has to give. But here's the catch. The billion-dollar fix Arizona is building might actually make the core problem worse. When roads fail to keep pace with population, most governments face a choice between redesigning the system or making it bigger. Arizona chose bigger. The state is midway through the Interstate 10 Wild Horse Pass corridor project, a nearly $1 billion effort to add a third lane in each direction from Loop 202 in Phoenix down to State Route 387 in Pinal County. Tucson is widening nearly 4 miles of Interstate 10 from 3 lanes to 4 lanes in each direction. Together, these projects represent the largest coordinated push to strengthen the main artery of the emerging megacity. The engineering is impressive, the investment is massive, and there's a contradiction buried at the center of it all. State transportation reports acknowledge the importance of public transit and walkable neighborhoods. Yet when money gets allocated, almost everything goes toward expanding highway capacity. Every new lane added to Interstate 10 reinforces the exact development pattern that created the traffic jam in the first place. Arizona can probably widen Interstate 10 enough to manage current traffic. The question is whether this approach works for a region set to double in population over the next 25 years. Every lane added today locks in decades of car-dependent development, and those patterns create pressures that go beyond traffic. Because while Pinal County absorbs housing overflow and highways struggle to keep up, Tucson is making a calculated bet on a completely different kind of growth. While bedroom communities fill the space between metros, Tucson is carving out a specific economic role. The city is positioning itself as a logistics and manufacturing center. The centerpiece is the Sonoran Corridor, a 50 square mile zone surrounding Tucson International Airport designed to function as a major shipping hub for the entire mega region. It is a continental scale distribution point supported by rail, highway, and air connections. Union Pacific Railroad runs through the corridor. Interstate 10 and Interstate 19 provide highway access. The airport offers cargo capacity that can handle freight moving between Mexico, the United States, and beyond. The expected annual economic impact is $32 billion, with projections to create 200,000 jobs. If this works, it would fundamentally reshape the jobs-to-housing imbalance that currently defines the Sun Corridor. Private developers are backing this plan with real capital. Lincoln Property Company finished Phase 1 of the Interstate 10 International Logistics Campus, delivering 2 distribution buildings totaling over 373,000 square feet. This industrial growth reflects a larger economic evolution. The metros are no longer competing for the same companies or workers. They're specializing within a shared regional economy. Phoenix handles finance, technology, and corporate headquarters. Tucson focuses on logistics, aerospace, and border trade. Workers might live in one metro and commute to another. Companies might maintain headquarters in Phoenix, but run warehouses in Tucson. The economy starts to behave as one interconnected system, even while the cities stay physically separated. This specialization creates efficiency and strengthens competitive position. But it also amplifies infrastructure pressure on Interstate 10, because now you're not just moving commuters, you're moving freight, business travelers, and supply chains across an entire mega region. And all of that movement requires something highways and logistics hubs can't provide: massive amounts of electricity. Economic convergence creates energy, demands that individual power companies can't handle alone. The Sun Corridor gets sunlight 85% of the year, making solar power the obvious solution. Tucson Electric Power is developing the Wilmot Energy Center 2, a $314 million project designed to deliver 100 megawatts of renewable energy. But solar farms aren't the only energy-hungry projects reshaping the desert. Track bought a 2,069-acre site in Buckeye, Arizona, planning one of the largest data center parks in the United States. They're building up to 20 million square feet, requiring up to 1.8 gigawatts of power. That's roughly what a large nuclear power plant produces. Data centers rank among the most electricity-hungry buildings humans construct, and their growth in the Sun Corridor signals something significant. The region isn't just housing people anymore. It's becoming critical digital infrastructure for the broader American economy. The pairing of massive solar installations with massive data centers creates a useful relationship. Solar farms generate clean electricity during the day. Battery storage smooths out supply during evening peaks, and data centers provide constant baseline demand. But there's a constraint on all of this infrastructure that's far more severe than electricity or land. Every solar panel needs cleaning. Every data center needs cooling. Every new resident needs to drink, shower, and maintain a yard. And the Sun Corridor sits in a desert that gets less than 8 inches of rain per year, supplied by a river system that's been overused for decades. This is where Arizona's growth story gets genuinely strange, because the state came up with an innovative solution to the water problem that actually guarantees more sprawl. All the highways, logistics hubs, solar farms, and data centers being built across the Sun Corridor share one absolute dependency: water. The region sits in a desert averaging less than 8 inches of annual rainfall. The Colorado River, which supplies much of the water here, is under severe strain from decades of overuse. Arizona's response created one of the most innovative water policies in the American West. It is also locked in a development pattern that makes coordination nearly impossible. In June 2025, the state passed Senate Bill 1611, creating the Agricultural to Urban Water Program. The program lets developers secure a 100-year water supply guarantee by buying farmland and permanently retiring its irrigation rights. This works because farms use between 4 and 6 acre-feet of water per year per acre, while residential developments use between 1 and 1.5 acre-feet per year. When developers convert irrigated farmland into housing, they actually lower total water consumption even while adding more people. It's a genuinely clever solution that addresses water scarcity in a measurable way. But the formula has consequences for what kind of housing gets built. 1 acre-foot of water per year supports roughly 3 single-family homes. The math works perfectly for low-density suburban development. It breaks down completely for apartments and condominiums because too many housing units cluster on too little land, exceeding the water allocation tied to that parcel. So, the policy that enables desert growth also encourages the spread-out, land-intensive housing pattern that defines modern sprawl. Every new neighborhood approved under this framework covers more desert, requires more roads and utilities, and generates more driving. Developers don't choose sprawl because they prefer it. They choose it because the water policy makes dense development nearly impossible to finance and approve. The policy solves water scarcity while reinforcing the exact pattern that creates traffic congestion and makes public transit impractical. And because each development ties its water rights to specific parcels of retired farmland, there's no flexibility to shift growth toward more efficient patterns later. The decision gets locked in for a century. This creates a deeper problem that goes beyond water or traffic or energy. The Sun Corridor doesn't have unified leadership. Phoenix and Tucson are separate cities with separate planning departments and development priorities. When a housing developer in Pinal County gets approval to build 45,000 homes, no regional authority evaluates whether Interstate 10 can handle the additional commuter load. Regional coordination happens through voluntary partnerships, like the Joint Planning Advisory Council, which brings together planning agencies from Maricopa, Pima, and Central Arizona counties. These groups can share information and attempt to align priorities, but they can't enforce regional decisions or override local approvals. This explains why the water policy influences sprawl. Even though many planners prefer denser development, individual cities approve low-density projects because they generate property taxes and demonstrate growth. The cumulative effect creates pressure on regional infrastructure, but no single jurisdiction is responsible for addressing it. The business community has recognized this coordination gap more clearly than the government. In 2025, Sun Corridor Incorporated and the Tucson Metro Chamber merged their advocacy operations into one unified voice. Their reasoning was straightforward. Global corporations don't evaluate Phoenix and Tucson as separate markets anymore. They see one Sun Corridor economy. And if regional chambers can't present unified priorities, the entire region loses competitive advantage. This pattern appears in most developing megaregions across America. Economic integration happens faster than political coordination because markets respond to current reality while governmental boundaries reflect historical accidents. Whether coordination develops fast enough to shape growth intentionally, or whether the region just sprawls until infrastructure failure forces change, remains an open question. The merger between Phoenix and Tucson is already happening. You can see it in Interstate 10 traffic patterns that prove the metros function as one commuter system. You can see it in business chambers merging because corporations treat the region as a single market. You can see it in shared water policy and interconnected energy grids. The Sun Corridor isn't a future possibility. It's a present reality that infrastructure is struggling to support. Arizona faces a fundamental choice about whether this convergence produces a functional megacity or a sprawling, resource-strained collection of suburbs connected by permanently jammed highways. Whether anyone is actually coordinating those decisions into something that works remains the biggest unanswered question of all.